Hey guys, ready? We're gonna finish week 6, and here we are on week 6, February 15th. We're gonna finish Poisson today, and then a week, Tuesday we have a lecture, and then Thursday, the day before spring break, is our second quiz. I put on the board here what will be covered on that quiz: week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7 material, and don't forget. Just go to the instructions of each week. Let me bring this one up. Go to the instructions of each week to answer the question, what should I study? Jump down to the materials, and every week I put the exact materials that we're covering as far as what from the book and from the PowerPoints and the different things I'm posting. So that's what you should be studying, what you should be preparing. Don't forget, on week 4, it was only a half a week of material, and week 7 is a half a week material. So really, we're only having a quiz over 3 weeks, same as the first quiz was over 3 weeks. Yes.
Should we look at the homework?
Yeah, I think the homeworks are key to study, because I'm writing, let's try to predict quiz 2 real quick. You guys had quiz 1, there were 7 problems, it was 40-minute time limit. That's your biggest enemy, is the time limit, right? Quiz 2 is gonna be 1 or 2 more problems, a little longer time limit, and it's worth a little bit more of your grade. Last quiz was 10%, I think this one's 15%. But it's gonna be no surprises. It's gonna be just like last quiz. It's going to be, mostly problems and then a few multiple choice. I think the last quiz out of 7 problems had 2 or 3 multiple choice. Well, out of 9 problems, you should expect 3 or 4 multiple choice. The rest are going to be problems. Very similar to the homework. That's how I prepare as far as those problems, because that's where most of the points are. Any other questions about the quiz a week from today? And then what happens after the quiz? Spring break. Oh my God, is that exciting? I'm thinking about taking off to Miami for a couple days.
Cool.
Can I come with you?
You know that a plane ticket's only $90 to Miami, round trip? Can you believe it? I started looking on the internet and go, wow, it's like they're giving away plane tickets.
Wait, aren't they expensive more like towards the spring
As
break?
you would think, but you can reserve one right now for $90. Round
No
trip
one
to
has
Miami.
spring break at the end of February, so.
Yeah, usually spring break is like a week later. This is kind of a week early, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, last year was the same thing.
Same thing, it was?
Yeah,
I
it's
couldn't
usually,
remember.
I think because of Ramadan.
All right, so now, what's due this week? Again, I just want to look some. You got 2 assignments, your written assignment, and every week you have an Excel assignment. They're always due on Tuesday, nothing changes. Your in-class assignments are always on Thursday, so you know you got one at the end of class today. You got a pile of stuff to hand back while you're doing your in-class assignment, all right? What I want to point out though is, I said to you, the hardest thing where students start to tear their grade up is when they are not recognizing the kind of problem they have in front of them. So I would ask all of you, this nothing you're handing in, this is nothing that you're getting graded on, this is for yourself to see if you're prepared for this coming quiz. I want you to write these 4 words down in this order on a scrap piece of paper. And you're not handing it in, don't look at anyone else's as you do this, but write these 4 words down. These are the 4 probabilities we've learned so far. Week 3 was binomial probability. Week 4 was normal probability. We learned uniform probability, and then Tuesday we got introduced to Poisson probability. So write those 4 down. When everybody's looking up, and I know that they wrote down all 4 of those, we're going to try something. I'm going to put 4 equations up on the screen. I'm going to read them out loud, and I have them numbered, and I want you to write the number down next to which one of those probability names that I just read. And see how many you get right. And if you get all 4 of them right, you're probably prepared for this week's quiz. Next week's quiz. But if you don't get all 4 right, this is what you need to focus on this weekend, is seeing that you can recognize these problems, especially for the final exam. That's where people tear their grade up, is they're recognizing the problem as something that it's not. You got all 4 of those names down, here we go. I'm gonna read these out loud. All I'm asking you to do, on your own, you're testing yourself. This isn't, don't look at anyone else's, you're testing yourself to see if you're ready or not. I'm gonna read these out loud. Number 1, remember, it's gotta be one of these. If the random variable x is known to be evenly distributed between 40 and 56, calculate the probability of x having a value between 46 and 54. Now put a number next to one of those words you think this one is. All right, this is gonna go fast. You're on a time limit just like the quizzes. Here we go. Number 2, if the data has a mean of 10 and the standard deviation of 2.1, calculate the probability for 11.5 or less. Write down which one you think this is. Number 3, on average, there's 6 potholes per mile on a particular stretch of highway. Calculate the probability of finding 2 potholes in a half-mile stretch of the highway. Okay, put the number next to a word, which one you think that is. And here's the last one. Trust me, each one of these are different. Each one of these fit on one of these words. I'm not trying to trick you. So you should have one on all 4 of these. 4, calculate the probability that 2 employees out of a randomly selected list of 7 employees will leave the company in the next 12 months. Traditionally, the company has a turnover of 12%. All right, you should have all 4 numbers written down. I'm looking for volunteers. Number 1, if a random, well, I'm not going to read it again. Number 1, does someone want to volunteer and tell me what they think that is? Yes? Uniform. Why? What was the key for you?
Evenly distributed.
Evenly distributed was the key word. If you see the word uniform distributed or evenly distributed, you know it's uniform. That's what sticks out. Someone else. Number 2, what do you think it was? Yes? Normal. Why? How did you know that was normal? Standard deviation. The standard deviation is almost always the thing you would stick out to tell you that was a normal probability. Good. Very good. Someone tell me about number 3. Yes?
Poisson.
Alan, what?
Poisson.
Where's your voice?
Got it.
How is this recording going to hear you?
Poisson.
Thank you. Poisson, but how did you know it was Poisson?
Because it 6 miles per mile on the stretch of the highway.
He's saying he recognized that there was an interval there, the stretch of highway of, what was it, 6 miles? No, wait.
Well, 6 miles per mile.
Per mile, a mile stretch of the highway. So he's recognizing it was talking about occurrences over an interval. Occurrences over an interval. And then what was number 4 though? Obviously there's only one left. Anybody else want to volunteer what number 4 is? Yes. Wait, Fatima, you already did one. Someone give me someone else, number 4. It's obvious, so what is it? Binomial, exactly. What stuck out at you on binomial would help you recognize it?
Turnover rate.
Well, not just the turnover rate, that doesn't give it away.
Or randomly selected.
Yeah, randomly selected. How many randomly selected out of how many? That's kind of the giveaway on the binomial. All right, good. Now, you say to yourself, if you got all 4 of those, don't relax. It doesn't mean you can't study, don't study for the quiz next week. It just means you're probably pretty prepared. Because that's the key. All the points are recognizing what problem you have and pulling the numbers out and setting it up. That's where most of the points are. That's where I don't want anybody to blow it. I don't want anybody to tear their grade up by not recognizing what kind of problem you got in front of you. All right, let's get to Poisson. We got a lot to talk about Poisson. Matter of fact, we're talking not only about Poisson, we're going to continue talking about solving it manually, but we're getting into Excel today. We've got to be able to do Excel. And here's what's hard about Poisson's Excel is that it has the exact same situation we have with binomial. Because both binomial and Poisson work with discrete data. 1, 2, 3, not 2.5, not 2.78. Discrete data, counting how many. And because of that, we have this situation with the Poisson equation when it's a more than or more or at least a number or at least this number. When you have that some number or more, we got that situation we had with binomial. That first number has to be the opposite of the question. Remember that with binomial? That was the tough part for all of you on that first quiz. That first number has to be the opposite of the question in a more than question. Because anytime you're using that 1 minus in front, that's the hardest part of today's lecture.
So the one is what the one you use the first one.
The first one is for any number or less or an exact number. Like what's the probability of 4, or what's the probability of 4 or less, or what's the probability of anything or less, or an exact number, you're using the top one. But what if I said, what's the probability of at least 4? That's 4 or more. That's when we're going to the 1 minus, and we gotta use the opposite in that first number. All right, so now, let's go back to the instructions. Go ahead, you gonna, oh, thought you were raising your hand. Let's go back to the instructions. No, let's go to the first. Here's the written assignment. I want to point out you have 3 problems on top. I pretty much given away that these are Poisson problems. So it's all about you solving them manually. And then number 4 is what we learned on part of Tuesday's lecture, which is the combination and permutation counting formulas. So you got to recognize those. But here's also a big part of this week's homework. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Poisson questions that you have to use Excel to solve. Trust me, you're gonna have some that are more than, some are less than. And then in Tuesday's lecture, what I really brought up was the hard part is, what if the interval in the question is different than the interval, how the mean is described? That's the part you've gotta focus on also. What if the interval's different in the question than how the mean is being described? You never change the question number, you always change the mean to fit the interval, remember? So, let's go back. Oops, hang on. Here we go. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, but now we're gonna go a step farther. Let's stick with the manual equation to start with. It's all about you picking out the two numbers from this description in this story. Patients arrive at this emergency room at the hospital on an average of 6 per hour. There's the mean, 6 per hour. All right, the question says, what's the probability that we'll have 5 arrivals at this emergency room in the next 60 minutes? Look at the interval. The mean's being described over an hour interval, the question's being described over 60 minutes, which is also an hour. So there's no reason to convert the mean, because they're both the same interval. And the two numbers are a 6 and a 5. And that's all I gotta do, plug them in. Here we go. The mean, which is a, what is it again, 6 or 5? 6, okay, the mean, 6. And it says to the exponent, the number being asked the probability of, which is 5, very good. What, anybody? Okay, times E, put it right up here for you, 2.71828. 2.71828 to the power of negative mean. Negative 6, I think the mean is 6. Okay, negative 6 is the mean. Over the number being asked about, factorial, which is, help me out. There you go, 5 it is, 5 factorial. Most of the points on that quiz is gonna be showing me that you recognize the kind of problem you just read and you set it up just like I did there. Don't be wrong. I'm looking for 3 equations. I'm looking for some calculation work to show me what 6 to the power of 5 is. I'm looking for some calculation work to show me what e to the power of negative 6 is. And 5 factorial, I happen to have it memorized for some reason, 120. I need to see those 3 numbers as far as work's concerned on your homework and on the quiz. You gotta show those calculations, those 3 of them, at least 3 of them. And then I expect a final answer. As long as you got at least 3 calculations going in a final answer, you're probably getting all the points if they're correct. That's always E. E is always in stone, math. Just like pi is always 3.14, blah, 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 blah. E is always 2.71828. Hang on, I almost got it memorized. 2.71828, 1828, something, something. That's always, that's in stone.
Can we solve it further, or is that it?
No, you gotta go a little further. You gotta take 6 to the power of 5 and tell me what it is. You gotta take 2.7, take E on that. Don't forget, your calculator has E on it. Yeah, let me just hit that key real quick. So I'm gonna go E, there it is, 2.71828, 1828459, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm gonna hit the key that puts it to the power of, so right there, and then we're putting it to the power of 6, but we're making it a negative, right there. So e to the power of negative 6. 0.002, you don't forget, you're required to go 4 digits to the right of the decimal at least. You can go as many as you want, but you gotta have at least 4. So in this case, 0.002, what would be the next digit? 5, very good, because the one after that's a 7. So that would be your work, showing this one right here. I'd put that number right there. And then you'd have 6 to the power of 5. Let me get my calculator. 6 to the x to the power of y. And then I put a 5, and then equals. So this would be 7,776 right here. And then 5 factorial. I'm gonna hit the 5, hit the factorial key, which is n exclamation point, 120. You got those 3 numbers now. After you set that up, you now have gotten all the points for showing calculation work. All you have left to go after is an answer for both the homework and the quiz. I need to see that you work, if you're doing manually. All right, now, look at Excel. This is our first time seeing the Excel way to solve this. This question is asking about 5 arrivals, not 5 or less, not 5 or more, but 5. So that means we're using this top equation. What we're putting in the parentheses is the first number says the number being asked the probability of. The second number is the mean, and the third number is either a 0 or 1. If it's 5 or less, the question, then you put a 1 on the end. It will calculate all of that for you. Calculate the probability for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, and add them all up. But if you put a 0 on the end, that means you're telling Excel you want the probability for just that one number, which is what this is asking for, the probability of 5 on the nose. It's not saying 5 or less or 5 or more. So here we go. Anybody want to help me with this? Equals Poisson parentheses. What is the first number?
5.
Thank you. God, I couldn't even get it out fast enough. Okay, what is the mean?
6.
6. Very good. Now think about it. What
Zero.
will it? What?
0.
What? How do you know?
Because it didn't say.
That's right. It doesn't say 5 or less. Doesn't say 5 or more. It just says 5. So there's going to be a 0 on the end. There it is. Let's see it in action. I think I forgot to open a blank sheet. Hang on. Let me get one ready. Try it. Here we go. Equals. POI. There it is right there. You can use that Poisson dot distribution. You get the same result. I just used this one. Equals. It's looking for my numbers. You guys said use a 5, comma, use a 6, comma, and use a 0. You're telling Excel right now that the mean is 6. You want to find the probability of 5. Exactly. Not 5 or less, not 5 or more, and that's why it's 0 on the end. There it is. 0.160623. Let's go to the next one. I want you to see one now where we got to do an adjustment. Let's do this again. Hang on. Let me erase my. I want you to get me all set up. Hang on. Let me get the numbers out of here. Let me get the numbers off of here. I don't have to. Whoops. This is always 2.7. I don't have to erase that one.
So if it says.
All right. Hey, if this emergency room, on average, we get 6 arrivals per hour, on average. What's the probability we'll get 4 arrivals in this emergency room in the next 30 minutes? Notice the interval changed. The mean is being told as an hour, but the interval for the question is 30 minutes. Don't change the question. Leave it. So we know X is going to be how many? 4 in 30 minutes. So we know there's going to be a 4 in the exponent right here, and we know this is going to be 4 factorial. But the mean is over an hour, not 30 minutes. And it says 6 per hour, so we have to switch it to Alan to what? 3. He says 3 because what he's saying is if the interval in the question is exactly half of the interval being described in the mean, that means the mean has to be exactly half. Whatever you do to calculate from one interval to the other, the same calculation's got to take place to convert the mean. So half of 6 is 3, so I'm putting 3 to the power 4, and I'm putting e to the negative 3. There it is. Now we can solve the second one. Help me with Excel now. This is asking about 4 arrivals in 30 minutes. We're using the same equation we just used on the last one. What's the first number?
4.
4 is what's being asked about. Comma, what's the second number?
3.
3, very good. What's 0 it is, you're right. Because it's asking for 4 arrivals exactly. Not 4 or less, not 4 or more, but 4 exactly. You guys got this down pretty good. Real quick, let's make sure we got the, let's see what Excel tells us the answer is, just to check it against. Here's what the PowerPoint says. 4 and 3 is used, right, just like this. And it calculates to 0.1680, about 16.8%. Let's see what Excel says it is. So let's see, what am I changing? I'm changing these first 2 numbers. This is asking about 4, and the mean is 3, and we still use a 0 on the end. So did this come out to be, if we did it right, this should come out to be, what was it, 0.1680. There it is, 0.168031. All right, let's get some harder ones now. Let's see. What's the mean? The mean, I'm gonna throw some other ones out here. The mean again is 6 per hour, right? Okay, let's make up some questions. I want a question now of how many arrivals. You know there's around 6 per hour. Give me a time, let's see, how much time? Let's go with 20 minutes. The question's gonna be how many arrivals in 20 minutes, the mean's being described as 6 per hour, and the question says, hey, let's say there's gonna be 2 or less. What's the probability there'll be 2 or less arrivals in the next 20 minutes when usually there's 6 arrivals per hour? Now look, I threw a twist in there. Let me get my eraser. You're gonna help me with this. First of all, my question for you is, based on everything I've mentioned so far, Are we using the top equation or the bottom equation?
Top.
Top one, that's right. Because this isn't a more than, this didn't say at least, this is for sure a less than. What would be the first number in this question I just made up? 2 or less in 20 minutes?
2.
2 it is, because you don't change the number being asked about. Here's the tough part now. What's the mean?
2.
How did you know?
Because it's just 6 in an hour.
That's right. If it's 6 per hour and 20 minutes is a third of an hour, you divide it by 3, then you gotta divide 6 by 3. The same calculation to get to that new interval is the calculation you do to convert that mean. So 6 will then turn into, what'd you say, 2? Comma, what's the last number?
1.
1, because I'm asking for 2 or less. 2 or less. There it is. That's how you write that. All right, go.
So what if it's 15 minutes? instead of
Let's
20?
do a 15-minute. Let me erase these. Hang on. Hang on. Right now, everybody's thinking about it. Come on, hang on. So we're switching this to 15 minutes, and I'm gonna make this 1. I'm gonna make it hard. Oh, this is too hard. Here we go. One more. I'm trying to answer your question at the same time. I'm doing a more than to give an example at the same time. I hope this doesn't confuse anyone. Let's see what happens. He's asking, what happens if the question is about 15 minutes, even though the mean is being described about an hour? The interval has changed. What would you have to multiply a 60-minute interval by, or divide by, or multiply by, to turn it into 15 minutes? 4. You'd have to divide by 4, because it's 1/4 of 60 minutes, exactly. So whatever the math you just did in your head to convert that interval, 1/4, you gotta convert the mean to 1/4. So help me out, what's 6 divided by 4?
15.
1.5. The mean ends up being 1.5. Uh-oh, I just placed it in the wrong spot.
It's in the bottom. You gotta-
That's right, you see what she just said? She said, because this is a more than question, we've gotta use the bottom one. So we gotta use this 1 minus. Here we go, 1 minus Poisson. Look, I'm using the dot one. No, I'm not gonna. Okay, I'm gonna do the mean first. 1.5, comma. Is this a 1 or a 0?
1.
Because it's a or more, because it's an or less. Anytime it's not an exact number, you know a 1's on the end. Here's the toughest part of all of it. Let me erase this, because we're on this equation. Let me repeat for everybody who's just catching up. The question is, we usually have 6 arrivals in this emergency room in an hour. What's the probability we have 1 or more arrivals in this emergency room in the next 15 minutes? The interval's a 1/4 of it, so we had to convert the mean to a 1/4. We never change what's being asked about, which is 1 or more, but here's the deal. This is just like binomial. That first number has to be the opposite of what's being asked for. I already hear a couple people telling me what's there.
0.
There it is. The opposite of 1 or more would be 0 or less. Hang on, I gotta get that back up. All right, I'm gonna put it on here, let's see what we get. Equals 1 minus POIS blah blah blah, Poisson. The first number is the opposite, since this is 1 or more, the opposite would be 0 or less, because it's discrete data, right? So I'm putting a 0 there, comma. The next one you said is 1.5, because we used 1/4 of the hour, so we gotta use 1/4 of the mean. 1.5, comma. What's the last digit you don't? 1 it is, very good. Here we go. So in this case, 1 minus Poisson, 0, comma, 1.5, comma, 1 gives you the probability. Yeah, go ahead, then now.
Would there be a question where it asks like an odd number for the
Yeah,
time?
let's do an odd number. He wants more than, you still want to stick on more than?
Yeah.
Okay, stick with the more than. Where do I keep setting that down? Okay, hang on, let me see here. I'm switching everything here.
Can
Hang on.
we change it to 2 hours?
Yeah, I want to change it to 2 hours. I like that idea a lot. That's a great idea. Now we're doing 2 hours, an odd number or more, okay? Now think about it, if it's 6 per hour, we're asking about 2 hours, we're not gonna ask about a number more than 6. An odd number like 11, would that be okay? So is 11 odd?
Oh, I thought like the odd number for the time.
Oh, for the time, oh, that's not so evenly? I'm not gonna be.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
That's
be
what
that
I
rough on you. He's saying, what if I give you a time that's hard to even calculate what was done? No, I'm gonna give you something that's pretty logical. All right, I'm not gonna be that rough. 302 would be that rough on you, but not me. 2 hours is pretty easy, but hang on, we gotta ask a question here, and we're doing another more than, when you said odd, I thought you meant an odd number. I'm still gonna use an odd number though, okay?
Gotcha.
So 11 or more. Here we go. Top equation or bottom?
Bottom.
Bottom it is. 11 or more, 1 minus, I'm not even gonna go to the mean, I'm going right to that first number. If it's asking about 11 or more, what will be that first
10,
number?
10.
Very good. The opposite of 11 or more is 10 or less. Very good. The mean now, think about it. The mean's being described to us as 6 per hour, but the question's in 2 hours.
22.
It will be twice as much. Wait, stop. What'd you say, 22? No.
Wait.
Wait, think about what the mean is. 6 per hour, but the question's in 2 hours. What'd you have to do with an hour to turn it into 2 hours?
Okay.
There you go, hit me now with it.
12.
You got it. It all clicked in. You had to double, the time doubled, so the mean doubles. If the interval doubles, the mean has to double. So if the mean's being described as 6 per hour, it's gonna be 12. 12 per 2 hours. So here we go. Oh, wait, what happened here? Thank you, come on, and then what's the last number? 1. There it is. The question again said, what's the probability of 11 or more arriving at this emergency room in a 2-hour time frame when usually we have an average of 6 arrivals in an hour? We went ahead and said, okay, that's a more than, so we went with 1 minus. We know the first number has to be the opposite of the question because this is Poisson with discrete data. The opposite of 11 or more would be 10 or less, so a 10 here. The mean has to be doubled because the interval doubles, so that took it to 12 with a 1 on the end. Everybody with me? You want to see the answer to this real quick? I'm changing these numbers from, let's see, that was, you said a 10, and then the other number is 12 is the mean, and a 1 on the end, right?
It's all right.
Here we go.
Needs practice.
About 65%, 0.65277. All right, you're getting these.
For something that says like or more, would we have to,
I know you guys can't hear him, but he said if there's something that's like this or more,
do we have to change the manual equation?
the manual equation. Let's go with the or more on the manual equation. Here's the deal with the manual equation. You ready? I want to start out easy. Hang on. We got to get an example we can do here. You ready? Hang on. We're going to stick with the arrivals. The mean is there. Hang on. Are you ready? I'm going to do an easy one though. I want to do 15 minutes again. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And I want to do, what's the probability of 1, and you said or more, right? Or more, and we're going to do this manually. 1 or more for a 10-minute interval when usually we have 6 per hour. This is a 10-minute interval. Think about what you had to do till an hour, 60 minutes, to turn it into 10 minutes. You had to divide it by what? Maybe back here somewhere. What did you have to do to the time of 60 minutes to turn it into 10 minutes?
Divided by 6.
Divide by 6. So you got to do the same here. If 6 divided by 6 is equal to, the mean is going to be a 1 here. So the mean equals 1 for this 10-minute problem. The question's 1 or more. Here's the deal. When you do this manual equation, you're doing it for an exact number. This manual equation has no way of knowing you want to do it for less or more. Now, for me to do this question for more, I would have to do this for the number 1, for the number 2, for the number 3. I'd have to do this for a bunch of numbers. Instead, I only have to do this for how many numbers if I were doing the opposite of 1 or more. The opposite of 1 or more would be 0 or less, so I'd only have to do this for 0, then subtract it from 100%, or subtract it from 1. Let me repeat this, because I know I just blew some minds, so hang on. You ready? We're manually calculating for 0 or less. I'm sorry, 1 or more. The opposite of 1 or more would be 0 or less, but there's only 0. There's nothing less than 0. So watch what I'm doing. What's the mean? 1 to the power of 0, 0 factorial, and this is, what's the mean? Negative 1. 1 to the power of 0, we know any number to the power of 0 is equal to what? 1, very good. E to the power of negative 1, because that's the mean. 0 factorial, we know 0 factorial is always what? 1. This is a 1, that's a 1. We basically just got to solve this. That's it, and we'll find our answer, then subtract it from 100%. So hang on a minute, here we go. Let me get my calculator. E to the power of negative 1, I think, right? Is that what it says? Okay, so this equals, this whole thing, since that's a 1 times that, divided by 1, this equals 0.367, no, 9, look at the next digit, 9. Okay, there it is. There's the answer to that, but we're not done, because the question said, what's the probability of 1 or more? We just calculated the probability of 0. I now gotta take 1.0 and subtract that. I gotta find the opposite of that, which is gonna be 0.6311 maybe? Someone do that for me, I just get that off the top of my head. Go ahead, Tess, you had a question?
So would that only work when, obviously nothing's less than 0, so would that only work?
Yeah.
for, like,
Hang
if
on,
it's
hang
like
on,
it's
you ready?
3 or more?
Now it's 2 or more, still 10 minutes.
Okay.
I now have to do this for 0. Hang on, we're not done here. Then I gotta do it again for 1. Oh, wait. Oh yeah, 1 is our mean to the power of 1 times 2.71828 to the power of negative 1 over 1 factorial. The answer doesn't change, but here's the deal. The probability for 0 is 1 minus, for 0 or more, it happens to be that. Hang on, I'm sorry. Hang on, you ready? Let me get that off there. The probability for 0 is 0.3679. The probability for 1, if we do all this math, I just noticed is 0.3679. The probability now for 2 or more would be if we add that, and subtract it from 1. Because the opposite of 2 or more is 1 or less. So you found the probability for 1, you found the probability for 0, now subtract it from 1, you found the probability for 2 or more.
Wouldn't it be 2, not 1 to the power of 2?
Oh, wait, did I accidentally do the wrong number? What?
Yeah, because it's 2.
Hang on. 2 or more means I gotta do it for 0, and I gotta do it for 1. The
But what
mean
about
is
the
still
other
1.
one?
So I'm doing it for 1, and I'm doing it for 0, found the probability, add them together, subtract from 1.
Even
Let's
for-
check this, you ready? Let's check and see if I'm right. Hang on. Here's what we're gonna do. You're now being introduced to the Poisson table.
Oh, no.
Oh yes, the Poisson table. Here's the deal with the Poisson table, is that the left-hand column is whatever you're being asked the probability of. The rows across the top are the mean. And then the probabilities are below that. So here we go. We're doing 2 or more per 10 minutes. The mean is 1 because it's 10 minutes. So I'm gonna go 2 or more. I'm gonna find the probability for 0 and for 1. And I'm gonna add them together. You're gonna see on this chart that it's 0.3679, 0.3679, and then I can add them together and subtract from 1. Or we'll look at this chart and what is 2 or more. We could add up 2, 3, 4, 5, however many we're supposed to add up, I can't remember. We'll add those together and it will be exactly the opposite of these two added together. Here we go. What is X? 2 or more. So we're finding a 2. There it is. What is the mean? 1. So we're finding a 1, which is way over here. See the 1 right there? There's the mean. So there is the calculation for 0 when the mean is 1. 0.3679. What does it say there? 0.3679. Now here's the calculation right below it for 1 when the mean is 1. 0.3679. 0.3679. I could add those two together, subtract from 1, and it will equal all these other ones added together for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All those added together, they add up to 100%. But I found the opposite of it and subtracted from 1. I want to make sure you get this. This is the hardest part. I can tell we just had a confusing moment.
Are we gonna have to do this manually on?
Absolutely. I'm teaching you the chart, this table, so that you know how to read it. Let's go back and do another one real quick. I want to make sure you can read this table. And I want to make sure you get this more than. So hang on. Let me do this. Hang on. All right. We're going to go back in time to an hour. Okay. What's the probability there'll be, 3 or less? I don't need to do this on here because you know this will be, since this is 3 or less, it'll be the top equation. Poisson, 3. Since this is about an hour, the mean doesn't have to be converted, so that's a 6. And this would be a 1, because 3 or less. What you're actually doing by putting a 1 there is you're saying, Excel, find the probability for 3, find the probability for 2, find the probability for 1, and find the probability for 0, and add them all together. That's what the 1 does on the end. But manually, we can't do this. We'd have to manually do the calculation for 3, manually do it for 2, manually do it for 1 and 0 and add all 4 of those to get that probability. Or we can go to this chart. We can go to the row at the top of a 6 and the column of a 3, but since this is 3 or less, we would find the probability for 3, find it for 2, find it for 1 and 0, and add them together off of this table. For you to show me work how you got the answer when I'm asking you a question to use the table, I'm asking you to show me which numbers you got off the table to add together. That's the work I'm looking for. So get ready to tell me which numbers you're going to use to add together to answer this question, 3 or less in an hour, when usually there's 6 arrivals in that emergency room. 3 or less, so 6 is the mean, so I gotta go all the way down to where 6 is possible here. There it is, there's 6 right there, hang on, there is 6. The question's about 3 or less. So let me take my pointer off of there. In that column, there should be some numbers that represent 3 or less. What number are you gonna use for the number 3 off of there? Can't see it?
0.0892.
Right there, 0.0892 is for the number 3. Where's the number 2, right above or below it?
Above.
Up above it, you would add then 0.0446, then you would add 0.0149, then you would add 0.0025. You show me those numbers added together, for number 3210, all 4 of those numbers added together, that's the work for answering that question that you use the table. It showed me you know exactly which numbers to use off that table.
Why'd you go to 6.0?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Why'd you go to 6.0?
Because the mean is 6.0. This was 3 or less per hour, and the mean is 6 per hour. So the mean, you had to go to 6.0, right here, then here.
For the test, are you gonna want us to demonstrate the formula and that, or can we just?
This test is gonna have a question where you gotta solve it manually. This question is gonna have questions where you gotta solve it using Poisson. And this test is gonna have a question where you gotta use the table.
Even for or more?
Possibly. You wanna do an or more right now?
No, yeah.
Okay, ready? Hang on. Hang on. There it is. Okay, now we're doing or more. What's the mean? 6. So I'm using this same 6 right here. We're using this column. We got the 6 out of this row. Now it says 3 or more. If this is a quiz question and I was asking you to use the table, you have a choice here. You can go ahead and find it for 3. I see it right there, 0.0892. And then write down 0.1339, 0.1606, 0.1606, and write all these numbers down and add them together. Most of the points would be writing all those numbers down, by the way. But make it easy on yourself. You know this adds up to 100% or 1.0. So just do the opposite and subtract it from 1.0. For the opposite of 3 or more would be 2 or less. So I'm jumping up to, I would just take, hang on, where's my pointer? I gotta find my pointer, hang on, there it is. I would just take this one, 0.0446, plus 0.0149 for 1, and 0.0025. I'd add those 3 numbers, the opposite of 3 or more, and then subtract it from 1. And that's how that's the work I would show, to find for 3 or more. Make it easy on yourself. Do the opposite of 3 or more, which is 2, 1, 0, 2 or less. Go ahead.
I had 2 questions with that.
Which
Yeah,
one?
2 of them.
Right here?
Yeah, that one is good. But for the table, the mean is on top.
The mean is on top. The mean is always these big numbers across these rows here. Let's convert the mean. I want to change it so we can see the mean being converted. I'm now going to go. You want to stick with or more though? Does this help? I'm going to stick with the or more. I'm going to call it 2 or more for a half hour. Everybody with me? Okay, here we go. Hey, we usually get 6 arrivals at this emergency room per hour. What's the probability we'll get 2 or more in the next half hour? 2 or more in the next half hour. You ready? We're going to use the table. Which mean should I use because of this interval being changed? 3, you got it. So I got to go to the 3, which is going to be way up here. Okay, now the question says 2 or more. How many numbers would you have to add up if you decide to go with the route of 2 or more only? You would add them all from 2 or more though. So you start at the 0.2240, you add another 0.2240, and so on and so on. You'd add all those numbers from that point down, or you could do the opposite.
1 and 0.
Yeah, the opposite of 2 or more would be 1 and 0. just add those two and subtract from one. Everybody get it? You're showing me a lot less work. You're probably wondering, why is this only a point? Look at all the numbers I had to add together, because I know there's a shortcut that you only have to add maybe two numbers together and subtract from one. That's why it's worth so little points. You decide to take the long route. I'm gonna go here, then here, then here. Go.
Are we gonna include the 2 or more, or just 1 and 0?
Just the 1 and 0, because this is like binomial. You gotta use the opposite of what's being asked if you're gonna subtract from 1. So the opposite of 2 or more would be 1 or less. Okay, go.
Why don't we just use the chart instead of having to follow all this?
No, you have to use whatever the quiz says. The quiz is gonna ask you to solve it manually. The quiz is gonna ask you to solve it using Excel, or the quiz is gonna say you gotta use the table. And the work you're gonna show me by using the table is the numbers you're using off the table that you're adding together.
Okay, so once we add them all up, is that the answer?
That's the answer, unless you need to subtract it from 1.
And then that's it?
Then that's the answer, yes. Yeah, you're just taking numbers off the table, you're either adding them or adding them then subtracting from 1.
I was just confused on the manual.
Say it one more time.
On the manual one, which was the final answer? After you subtracted it from 1 or before? Or when you looked at it?
Well, she's asking what would be the final answer. I wanna do this one manually so I can answer it this way. Cause you're asking about a more than question, I think, manually, aren't you?
Yeah, but is your final answer, would it be after you subtracted 1 from it?
Yeah, if it's a more than, you would calculate this, you'd calculate this, what is this, 2 or more, so you would do this for the number 1, do this for the number 0, add these 2 and subtract from 1, because you're finding, the 2 added together are for if it said 1 or less.
So you'd have to calculate it for 1 and you would have to calculate it for 0?
Yeah, so think about this, if this is a quiz, and I'm asking you to solve it manually, I'm probably not asking you a more or a less, I'm probably asking you an exact number, because I only want you to have to calculate it once. Does that make sense? There's a lot of questions here, I'm gonna jump back here real quick.
Always just add everything underneath, so that's lower than the number.
Not always, it all depends what the question is. Hang on, he's saying, should you always add the ones below? It depends on the question. Now watch, I'm changing this question now to, watch what happens. What's the probability there's 2 or less in a half-hour time? So what's gonna be the mean, because it's a half-hour time? 3, 2 or less. So now I'm going to the 3, which is right there, but 2 or less would be adding this one for 2, 0.2240, then 0.1494 for 1, and for 0, 0.0498. You're adding those 3 numbers because they represent 2 or less. Does that answer your question? Okay, see my point? If that's at 2 or more, then you decide which way you want to go. You might go all the way down, or you might add the opposite and subtract from 1. So or less is pretty easy. Go.
For 2 or more for the rivals, would the Excel function be 1?
Okay, he wants to know the Excel for 2 or more. Hang on, 2 or more. Here we go. 1 minus, because it's a 2 or more. The opposite of 2 or more has to be here, which is 1 comma. What's the mean? Because it's a half hour. 3 comma. What's this? Always a 1 when you have a more than question. Always 1. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I had another question over here, but I forgot who had their hand up.
Why do you subtract by 1?
Like for example here.
No,
Over
read
here?
the manual.
Here's what's going on manually. I want to go back to 2 or more. We would have to do this so many times for 2 or more. We have to do it for 2, for 3, for 4, for 5, for 6, for 7. It'd take forever. So the opposite of 2 or more would be 1 or less, which is only 2 numbers. We would do this for the number 1, do it for the number 0, take those 2 totals, add them together and subtract from 1, because that would give us then the possibility for 2 or more. We just did for 1 or less by doing these 2. Let me make sure you see this, okay? Look up here. Okay, here, right here, for 2 or more, we would manually calculate it for 2 and get that answer. Then 3, get that one, then 4, then 5. We'd have to do the manual equation that many times. But instead, if we manually calculate 1 and get 14.1494, manually calculate 0 and get that one, add these 2 together and subtract from 1, that's the same as adding all these other ones together, because this row always adds up to 1. So 1 minus this, let's say that's 5, so now we're at 95%. That's another 15, so 95, 85, so 80. All of these add up to about 80% because I subtracted these 2 from 100%. You get it? Good, click. All right, good.
I just have a comment that I think might help your question too, that just like dumbed it down for me. You know how we use like differently, either the one minus or just like you decide which Excel, you know, like more or less, you get that part? So it's basically the same thing when you do it manually, if it's the more than, you subtract by one, if it's not, you don't subtract.
Yeah, you're using the opposite
Yeah.
of what's being
Yeah.
asked for. So if this is say 2 or more, the opposite would be 1 or
So just
less.
like you
Yeah.
decide
You just
which,
do the 1 and 0, she's
Excel you
saying.
use, do more or less.
So let's check this theory. Let's go another one here. Let's say this is a 3. So what would you have to grab, how many numbers would you have to, what numbers would you grab if you're trying to do the opposite of 3 or more? The 1 and 0. And then you'd add those up and subtract the 1, because 3 or more would be the opposite of that.
How about you do it by window 2, 1 and 0, and then add them?
Yeah, say it again.
Because
Say it
that's
again.
manual.
Say it again.
We do this about manual.
Move this one? Okay, she's asking, what if this was being asked to do the manual equation, 3 or more? You'd have to manually do it for 2, manually do it for 1, and manually do it for 0, and then add those 3 results up and subtract from 1. I want to warn you, on a quiz, I am not going to ask you to solve this manually because you would take so much time doing this 3 times. It would take so much time that you'd have no time for any of the other problems. I am going to ask you to do this manually, but I'm probably going to say, what's the probability there are 3 arrivals per half hour? I'm asking for an exact number. I'm not asking for 3 or less or 3 or more. When we get the question that's asking you to do a Poisson, it's going to be 3 or less or 3 or more. It's going to be a lesser or more, because I want to see that you know which equation to use, and I want to see that you know to use the opposite of what's being asked for that first number. You know you're going to see this. Think about it. This is the challenge right here. You're going to see this. This is what separates the A's from the B's. Whoever can remember to use the opposite number.
Can you remind me one more time? If it's,
Give me something here. Give me a time interval and give me a number here. You know it's 6 per hour is the mean. Give me a time interval.
3 or less.
3 or less. 3 or less per. You want an hour, half hour,
Oh, let's do an hour.
2 hours?
1 hour.
Oh, 1 hour. Okay,
I'm not that confident.
1 hour. So this is what's here we go. We usually have arrivals of 6 per hour at this emergency room. What's the probability there'll be 3 or less in an hour? Do we have to convert the mean?
No.
No, it stays at 6. You want this manually solved, or you want
Excel.
Excel? Here we go. Are we using the top one or the bottom one?
Top.
Top one, because it's or less. So equals Poisson. The first number, you never change it. What's it being asked? 3, comma. What's the mean? 6, comma. What's this number?
0.
Hi.
1.
It's 3 or less. 3 or less. Not 3 exact. 3 or less.
So if
You
it's
gotta
exact-
use a 1 on the end for the or less.
So that's my question, if it's exact.
If that says 3 only, what's the probability of 3 per hour? The only thing that changes is right there.
Okay, okay, that was my question.
Now, if you do it manually, you're doing this once for the number 3. And yeah, you only have to do it once. But if it were 3 or less, you'd have to do this for 3, then do it for 2, then 1, then 0, and add them all together.
And you're not gonna have us do that on the test, correct?
No, that's right. You're probably only gonna have to do this once, so it's gonna be something like, what's the probability of 3 arrivals in an hour when there's usually 6? Just a single number, most likely. Worst scenario is, I would only have to have you do this twice, never more than that. That'd take way too long. Odds of you doing it twice are pretty slim. I mean, I'd have to really be in a bad mood.
Can we start it in class?
Huh?
Can we start it in class?
Is it that time?
It's 10:20.
It's the, yeah.
Oh, you guys, this class goes to 10:45. Guys, we got 10 more minutes of hearing this awful voice, okay? 10 more minutes. You can make it. I know you can. We have medication if you pass out. All right, let me think. We got to do 2 more things. Sort and frequency. All right, sort and frequency. I should give him a hard time for walking in with only 10 minutes. All right, you ready? Sort's easy. Here's some numbers. You got some numbers, but you need them because maybe you're doing the median or something like that, and you need them to be in order from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Here's how you do it. I'm going to take the numbers because I don't want those to go anywhere. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to paste them over here. Paste it right there. Okay, let me hit escape. So now they're highlighted though. I have them still highlighted. Up here, there's a little button right here that says sort and filter. Hit the sort from smallest to largest, sort from largest to smallest, do a custom sort. I'm gonna go from smallest to largest. And there they are. Now it's 11 down to 97.
So-
So that's how
What are
you
we
sort
gonna need
them.
to do that for?
Huh?
What are we gonna need to do that for?
Well, for example, some people want to visually see the numbers in order to find the median, to find where the middle is, you know?
Mm,
You
yeah.
have to get them in order for that. That'd be
Okay.
one of the main reasons why.
Can we do it again?
You wanna do it again? Watch. I'm now gonna make them, I want it to go from largest to smallest now. So again, I go up here, I click on sort and filter, I'm gonna click on sort from largest to smallest. Now the 97's at the top, 11's at the bottom. Can everybody sort some numbers? It's that easy. Okay, this gets a little tricky now, so I hope everyone's paying attention. This is a different way. Remember on the homework, on last week, you had to figure out how many pieces of data fit in each class. And you used a count if, 2 count ifs, and for most of them, right? Here's another way of doing it. If you can take each class and set up what's called a column of bins, BINS stands for whatever the upper range of each class is. So, here's the classes, 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and here's the weird one, 50 and above, not 50 to 59, 50 and above, so that's weird. The bin has to be whatever the upper limit is of each class. So a 9, 19, 29, 39, 49, there is no upper limit to this class, 50 or more. So you leave it blank, but don't forget you gotta include that blank cell in the equation I'm about to write, so it knows that there's no upper limit after 50, that bin has infinity. So here it is, you go to your first one, where do we wanna put these? About right here? I'm gonna put the count of how many, here's all the data over here, how many's in each class based on these bins this time, using the word frequency. So here we go, it goes like this, equals FRE, there it is, there's the word frequency. Now it says, where's the data? So I'm gonna left click and hold my left click down to show the range of the data from C9, I'm holding my left click down, I'm dragging to the rest of the data, to C24. Now hit a comma. Now it wants to know where are the bins at, the upper number for each one. They're right here, but don't forget, you've got to include the infinity, which is that blank bin. So left click there, holding down my left click, but I'm including that extra blank cell right there. So this is F12 to F17, doing ending parenthesis. Now when I hit enter, let me see here, and Control Shift, then hold down while you hit enter. I'm gonna hit, here it is. Press down F2, then Control Shift, hold them down, then press enter. It will do it for every one of these classes in one shot. You ready? F2, Control Shift, or Shift, hit enter. Oh, what happened? Darn it. Let's do it again. Equals, I must have. Frequency. This time, you know what? I'm not even gonna do that. Data arrange, here we go, from here to here. Comma, bin array, here's the bins, make sure you include the blank one. And the parentheses, I'm just gonna hit enter. There it is. So let's check it out. Is there only one number between 0 and 9? Is there really 3 numbers between 10 and 19? Okay, let's go with 0 and 9. Is there only one? There's 9, and there is only one number. 10 to 19, is there 3? Yeah, I can do that. No, I don't, I'll end up saving. 10 to 19, let's see, here we go. 12 is 1. 17 right there. 12, there are 3, just like it says. So it did the count for you. Have this handy. If we have to do count how many are in each class again, maybe use this frequency equation. I got 1, 2, and 3. Hit.
So like our last homework assignment, we had to do something like that.
We could do something like that instead of having to do count ifs.
So on the quiz, you can use the frequency.
You know, I don't think I'm gonna quiz you on frequency. It would
Can you
be,
use that formula instead of the count?
you can use that formula instead of count if. Yes. Who was the second person I told? Yes.
So on the second run, did you just hit enter or did you do the F2?
I ended up just doing enter. I didn't do the F2 and control and it worked.
Okay.
Something changed. This is an old PowerPoint. I made this like over a decade ago. So maybe something's changed with Excel and now, but last semester it worked great with using the control, so I don't know why. Who is the question over here?
Can you show the formula one more time?
You ready? The formula again is, well, it's right down here. Equals frequency, is the data, in this case C9 to C24 comma, and where are the bins, F12 to F17. Let's see if I can do it again. Equals, I know we're gonna run out of time, because I got a life lesson I wanted to teach you. We're good, we can skip it though, save it for next time. Get to the end class. There it is again, see what I did? Equals frequency, I told where the data is, C9 to C24, then I hit a comma, I'm telling where the bins are, right there, F12 to F17, I'm hitting parentheses. Now I'm supposed to hit F2, Control Shift, and then hit Enter, and we'll do all of them. I'm just hitting Enter this time, again. See if it does all of them, ready? Did it again. All I did was hit Enter. Something's changed in Excel. I like it though. Made it easy. I'm gonna change those directions if I ever remember. Any questions? Let me look at my notes. We're at that point. I'm not gonna do the life lesson. We're getting right into the in-class so I can pass this stuff back. Ready for the in-class? You know the routine. Whoops. This is it. Okay, now don't go overboard. I'm only looking for the equation setup for both of these. You don't have to solve either one. You ready? It's asking you to manually set up the first equation, and then the second one's asking you to set up the Excel equation for the same problem. Let me read it to you. On average, there are 8 potholes per mile on a particular stretch of highway. Show how you would set up this up manually to find the probability there will be in 3 potholes in a quarter-mile stretch of the highway. Give the Excel equation that finds the same probability from above. You're setting this up manually, then setting it up Excel. You don't even have to solve it. And, you know, if you want to solve it for practice, because we got time, that's up to you. But you don't have to. Okay, I'm going to call your name, raise your hand, get my attention so I can get these back to you. Does Marion walk in? Did you walk in? Everybody sign in? Oh, it's up here. Where's that one? I saw him. Where'd he go? Olive, he was here, he left? I could have sworn I saw him walk in. Adam, back here, B. Noah C.
Yeah, 40 miles.
Elizabeth, where you at? Where's Elizabeth? Elizabeth? Oh. Mohammed.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Mohammed. Zayd.
Yeah.
A quarter is 4, so it'd be 8 divided.
Brendan.
2? Yeah, because a quarter of an 8 is 2.
Yusuf F. Yusuf F here. Never here. Jason S. You alright? You alright? Where? Here. Where are you at? Here. Random. Daniel, Fletcher, where are you at? Fletcher. There he is. Nicholas C.
Also 3?
That's me.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'll do it myself. Yeah, we're just thinking about this, right?
I got it.
Okay, got it.
That's why you get your ass.
Well, I got it.
Well, okay, no, I just want to wait. Oh, yeah.
0 because
0.
the exact
You
number.
want to put a rough here, so that way I know.
But you don't know, like, you tell me, like,
Amanda, where'd you go?
but yeah.
Hey, you're the one that got a
Venus,
No.
Susan.
You got it. Yeah, you got something. Three, no, I got three. Yes, sir, that's me.
Miriam. Mama. Elizabeth. Up here. Up here.
Wait, you said we don't have to solve this, right?
That's right, you don't have to solve it.
Yeah, I'm done.
Alan, what am I doing with this? I forgot. You, Alan, where'd you go? You for sure sent something in, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna double check my papers at home.
Okay, if you didn't email me, your missing items, email them before midnight.
You wanna turn it off?
Oh, I forgot, thanks, hang on.
I can turn it off.
I should have just said yes, guys. So now I gotta edit, don't I?